Hello everyone, today I'm going to be doing an unboxing and first impressions of this 5x5, the MoYu BoChuang, which I'm sure I'm saying wrong, and it also is the GT version, which should make it go faster. So let's go ahead and open this up. And the box, I'm not going over the box because I can't read any of it, so, but there it is. And we have more things that I can't read, it looks like. And the cube itself. So the reason I bought this cube is because I have a competition coming up, and I still have TheCubingers 5x5 as what I use, so just a little outdated. Alright, so I can already feel like there's some grease on it from the factory or whatever. So looking around the cube, looks like we have, pretty typical shades. Let's compare it to the ancient fossil, the TheCubingers 5x5. So just a tad bit smaller than that. I have no idea how big either of these cubes are, but there's a comparison. And let's do some turns here. So you can hear that. Sounds kind of sandy. A smooth kind of sandy, I guess. But definitely easy to turn than a V-Cube, so that's nice. And going back to those stickers, let's go ahead and see how well they contrast. So yeah, pretty typical shades, so that looks good. Yeah, so turning it, definitely a lot easier than a V-Cube. But it does take a reasonable amount of effort to turn it. It's not super light like 3x3s or anything like that. But I guess that's kind of to be expected. So let's see what this thing can corner cut. So we'll do the outer layers first. So almost a full cubie, but as you can see, if you go past that, this edge drops down and it becomes impossible to cut that. So the middle layers, so that locks up. So maybe 3/4. If I go past that, locks up. And then let's try an outer layer to an inner layer cut. Once again, probably about 3/4 of a cubie. And then an inner layer to an outer layer cut. Yep, so nothing past 1 cubie, because then the piece, as you can see, will just drop down into the spot like that. And it won't cut anymore. And then let's see if this thing can reverse corner cut. Okay, so a little bit. Maybe like 1/3 of a cubie max, but half or more locks up the outer layers, and then inner layers appears to be about a half. And then we'll do an outer layer to an inner layer cut. A little more than a half, maybe 3/4. So that's actually pretty good. Not quite a full cubie though. And then inner layer to outer layer, definitely not half. Not even like 1/4. Yeah, maybe 1/4. Barely. But definitely not a half. So corner cutting is decent overall, looks like. And we'll just have to see how this turns out for me. It does feel pretty controllable right now, just turning it like this. But let's go ahead and take this apart and look at the mechanism. Okay, so it was just as hard to get back together, and to finish up this unboxing and first impressions, I'll do a quick solve. So I'll just do a quick hand scramble here, and then solve it. Already enjoying this much more than my V-cubes. Alright, that's good enough. So I'm not really used to solving white centers, because I'm used to solving white cubes with black centers. So I'm not really sure why I got a black cube. So if you know me, you know I'm pretty much a 3x3 guy. I don't do a lot of big cubes a lot. And the bigger they get, the less I do them. So I do 4x4 a decent amount, but 5x5 and up, not that much. And I don't really have a very good 6x6 or 7x7 either, so might be time to upgrade. Alright, so there's a quick sample solve for you guys. I did notice there was some catching in that, but this cube will take me a little bit to get used to, so we'll really have to see how I like it in a few weeks. So I will be solving this a lot in the next few weeks, so stay tuned for the full review of this cube, and thank you for watching. Okay, so this thing was really hard to get apart. But I finally got it apart, and I can see why it's so hard to get apart, because all these pieces are super shaped. So if we take a look at this center edge piece, it's a prime example of this. So we have our flanges that are like typical of big cubes, but then if we look at it from the side, this really reminds me of 3x3 designs, because you have kind of all these notches and grooves formed for all the pieces to interlock. And then also there's this torpedo looking thing at the very bottom, just like in 3x3s. So looks like there's a lot of anti-popping mechanisms built into this cube. So if we look at the outer edge pieces, same kind of deal here. We have our typical slot, but then lots of curvy things happening. You can see that from there to there, there's a difference in height, and that goes all the way around the cube on all the pieces that line up with this as well. And then the base of this also has this notch, flangey thingamajigger that looks like it's supposed to keep it from popping as well. And then let's look at the centerpiece, the middle one, not the corners of the centers, I guess the edges of the centers. Oh, I've lost that one. Alright, we'll look at this one. So, once again, typical flanges. Not as shaped as most of the other pieces, but still we have something going on down there. Probably, once again, to keep it from popping. And once again, we have that height difference from there to right up to the flanges. And then our corner centerpieces. Once again, not quite as shaped as the other ones, but you can see we have this thing sticking out towards the top, and then also something on the bottom as well that kind of protrudes down. So that's interesting. And then The corner piece, which is really long, and it has two bases, it looks like. So we got this main one and then this kind of smaller one up here, and then the top of it's pretty standard, nothing fancy going on there. That's just rounded off on the corners of it, like you would see in a 3x3. And then if I can get this thing out, alright, so we can see that there's really huge grooves here where the center layer would be, where all those flanges fit into. And then if we look on this side here, we can see all the different grooves, whoops, that move around the whole circumference of the mechanism. So I really expect this thing to be really good at not popping, just because this mechanism looks like it has a lot of things built into it to prevent that.